Are we missing one more?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Council will call the meeting to order. For the record, it is October 3rd, 2023 at 4:34 PM. We'll begin this afternoon's work session with roll call attendance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilwoman Strader, Councilwoman Burrow.
Here.
Councilman Borton,
Here.
Councilman Hoagland.
Here.
Mayor Simpson.
Here. Next time up is the adoption of the agenda. Mr. Mayor, Councilman Hoagland.
Move adoption of the agenda as published.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as published. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the agenda is adopted. Next up is the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, on the consent agenda, we do need to remove item 10. That's the license agreement between City of Meridian and MDC and the Napa Meridian Irrigation District. There was another license agreement with ACHD, and they're going to be done in tandem. So they just ended up being separated due to length of time it took on the ACHD end. So we're just going to move that item to October 7th. So with the removal.
17th? October 17th.
October 17th, yes, October 17th, sorry. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda and for the mayor to sign and clerk to attest with item number 10 being withdrawn.
Second.
I have a motion, a second to approve the consent agenda. With that change, is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the consent agenda is agreed to. There were no items moved from the consent agenda, so we'll go right into Department Commission reports. First up is item 12, Ada County Jail Infrastructure Update regarding their proposed expansion and general obligation bond. I will turn the mic over to Sheriff Clifford.
Mayor and Council, thank you for having me. I'm Sheriff Clifford, Ada County Sheriff. I am going to talk just a little bit about Idaho's largest jail that sits right here in Ada County and services the city of Meridian, one of the many here. As you know, we are running for bond, and I wanted to make sure that You have information on what that means, answer any questions that you may have so that you and your constituents can make a decision and get out and vote on the ballot. So I'm going to see if we can navigate this. There are a couple short videos that we'll have in here. So, obviously, we all, population growth is the theme of the last decade here in Ada County and in Idaho specifically. And you see that it's grown more than 38% since 2010. Keep that number in your mind. That's grown 38% since 2010. By 2030, we're projected to exceed 600,000 here in the county. So just a little bit about the jail. We have a section of our jail that was built in 1977 when there were 154,000 people here. In 1995, that's going to be kind of a bookmark here in this timeline. That was when a large section was added onto the jail, but big pieces of infrastructure were also added into the jail to make sure that we could run it into the future. Ada County's population was 256,000, and then able to accommodate 560 beds. So that's 1995. That's also the last time we ran for bond here in Ada County. 2003, population is up to 327,000. We had another major expansion and added 864 beds. Now we can see in 2007, we had a few more beds added, and 2013 was the last time we added beds. It's not that many. Those were additions onto that 1995 infrastructure. So we're up to 1,116 beds available in a 544,590. Again, look at 1995, 256,000. Today, 544,000. That jail of 1,116 is still run on all of the infrastructure that was installed in 1995. I began my career 23 years ago by working in that jail. It is the same kitchen. It is the same booking area. It is the same inmate property. We've had a little bit of an upgrade in our laundry, but it's very similar to what it was before. However, we're running at 1,116 beds versus 560. So the information I'm going to give you is about what is happening with the jail infrastructure improvement. Why would we run for bond? Now that tells a little bit of a story about why, but I'll give you a lot more to the story. Let's see if this works. Is there supposed to be a video there?
It's just gray on my end. I can try to escape. Give me one moment. I'll try to control this.
Okay.
Do you see that error on the screen? It says, okay, it says, sorry, we cannot display this media object. Sorry about that.
Maybe there's not. Not the end of the world if we can't play it. Run without it if we need to. So we'll just keep moving on. So we'll talk about the current jail infrastructure. Again, the jail kitchen, that is a really big one. In 1995, that jail kitchen was built to accommodate about 1,000 meals per day. With our jail population usually running at about 1,000 people, it needs to accommodate 4,000 meals per day. Again, this is the same kitchen that I saw when I started working 23 years ago. And jail booking, the same way. We have so much more traffic in and out of our jail booking area as far as transports and bookings. And we need to revamp that area so it's more ergonomic and less chaotic. But you can't see behind this jail booking is the inmate property room. That thing is amazing. I wish you could see some pictures of it. It's same size as the 500 bed facility that we put in 1995. And now there are over 1,000 inmates, all of their property stuck in that same little room. We have done things over the years that are very creative, but if you went in there today, you and saw it, realize. And then our jail laundry, they're doing, I think it's 2,500 loads of laundry a week. Is that sound right? 2,500 loads of laundry a week. And we really need to improve that infrastructure so that it doesn't start crumbling. So we have about 11,000 bookings a year, and our population inside the jail, I think the public doesn't realize what that population looks like. It is anywhere between 85 and I've seen it up to 89% felonies. So a lot of kind of misnomers of, hey, just get rid of all these marijuana users and petty thefts. Those people are not in our jail. 86% of them, I think today it was 87%, are in there. Usually 5 or 6% of the population is in there serving time. People also sometimes don't understand there's a difference between a county jail and a state prison. State prison, you serve your felony time. In a county jail, you are usually awaiting trial or some type of hearing to see what their fate will be as far as if you're released or going to serve time in prison. But there is a small amount of inmates that serve time for misdemeanor and felony convictions inside the walls of the jail. So as of today, our average daily population is 1,005. That is it. Now you've heard me say 1,116 beds are inside the jail. So it's 1,005. We have more beds. Well, that is quite the issue, and that is an issue, and I'll get to that. So sometimes people also say, well, you should just try and get more people out of the jail. Well, I think don't always realize that the Ada County Sheriff's Office for the last 15 years has been very innovative in the country in creating programs that help keep the right people outside of our jail and the right people in the jail. So our alternative sentencing is, you've seen the SILD work that goes on sometimes on the sides of the road. The SILD work also improves picking up trash in parks. They help at the fair. They actually help improvements at schools. They do so much more than picking up trash on the side of the road. That's just what people usually see. We also have all kinds of community service outlets for people to do alternative sentencing. We also have a community transition center. We have a center right there on our campus where we can help identify people. It has to be ordered by the court, but we can identify people that are better supervised in our transition center, where we can give them some skills. We help people get their GEDs. We help them find jobs. And during the daytime, they leave the transition center and go to work and earn a paycheck so that they are not homeless when they get out of jail, or they can pay their bills and keep their home that's waiting for them. So, and we also offer educational opportunities in that community transition center. We have our own classroom and educators that are specifically patient. We also have the biggest misdemeanor probation team in the state. So we can supervise people and help them be successful outside the walls of the jail instead of serving time inside our jail. And our pretrial release, it's much of the same as the first three. That they identify folks that meet a certain criteria where we can say, hey, you know what? We think you should go back to work so you can get to court, pay your fines, pay your taxes, pay your bills, support your family. There are a number of different things ranging from ankle bracelets to visits to the office to breathalyzers, where we can say, hey, I think you're going to be okay. We'll help you get there, but you are still going to be watched by the Ada County Sheriff's. So when you talk about how we have about 1,000 people inside the walls of our jail, we usually have over 2,000 people that we manage outside the walls of our jail. Video. So the proposed plan.
Sheriff, I'm bringing the video up for you here.
Okay.
Sound is another issue. I apologize.
We'll bag it. I said most of this. So the project itself is designed to, what we're hoping to get to 2040 with this addition onto the jail. It, it will add beds to our facility, about 296 beds. More importantly, it will revamp that mid-90s infrastructure the jail is quote unquote functioning on today. So we will have new booking and intake being where you bring arrestees into the booking area, new kitchen, laundry, a housing pod with the 294 beds, a transport center. There is a lot of traffic in and out of the jail on a daily basis where inmates are taken to court or they're taken to doctor's appointments or a myriad of things. Because that booking area has never been updated, the transports have been more and more over the years. It causes a lot of congestion, a lot of inefficiencies within the jail, and it also makes it not quite as safe for us to be moving inmates in and out. We will create a whole new transport center so that we can get rid of transporting inmates through that part of the jail. Warehouse. 1995 warehouse is what is servicing that jail today. It's about 800 square feet. We need a 10,000 square foot warehouse. And that's what we would build today. In these plans. It would save us money on all the off-site space that we have to rent to store all of the needs for the jail. I know some of you have been into our Sallyport area where you pull in when you have an arrestee to take them in. Well, there are car spaces there that have boxes and boxes of toilet paper and dry food items that we've had to use as makeshift storage. Filled every nook and cranny in that jail with storage that we can. With the new warehouse, we can cancel all that off-site and help improve our buying power as well through get a lot bigger bulk items and pay less for them. And then new secure access for inmates coming in and people being released. That's kind of the infrastructure that we're looking at putting. We've already acquired the land. The deal was finally finalized in December of last year. One thing that people ask us all the time is, what is this going to cost me as a taxpayer? As you know, with a bond, that's what it does, is it costs the taxpayer. We figured out that it should cost the taxpayer about $3.60 for $100,000 of assessed property. So the average homeowner, according to Compass, will probably pay anywhere between $12 and $16 a year. You add on. So the election's in November 7th, so we're trying to get out there and educate people on what all this means. Sometimes people don't pay attention to what a bond actually is or what it means for them on their taxes, or some people don't even know what the largest jail in the state is right here. A lot of people don't know where it is, which is probably great that you don't know where it is. When I tell people it's next to the mall, they're flabbergasted. But that's a little bit on what that bond entails. I'd ask you that if people ask you questions, that you direct them to adajailproject.org, and it has all the information, well, at least most of the information that they'll need, and they'll have the ability to reach out to us. Does anyone have any
Thank you. Council, any questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Scher.
Hi, thanks, Sheriff. Appreciate you being here. Couple quick questions. So, and I'm just was appreciating the difference between the county jail and the state jail. Do you have the ability to, if you become overbeds, like where are you going to put people? Just curious how that would work. Can we send them out of state? Do we send them to the state jail? Like, how does that work?
Well, is the county, mayor and council, sorry. Our plan right now has been to keep those programs robust for keeping people out of jail. That's kind of the problem, is these people that are in our jail now don't meet the criteria for those programs. So right now, our only option is to have them sleeping on cots on the floor. It's about 4 inches off the floor on metal plastic cots. We don't see an option for transporting them out of state. That would be cost prohibitive at this point. That costs a lot of money. Plus, shipping them out of state, they have court appearances. Again, it's a transient population, right? Because they come and go out of the jail much more than they would if they were not serving a sentence. So it's not really an option to do that. We don't really have the option of sending them to other jails because those jails also have the same problems we do. And quite frankly, all over Idaho, we see this issue. And we see other jails that are running for bonds for that reason. So I don't have a great answer to what's the next step. But we're going to have to start planning for the future one way or another. We're going to pay now or pay later. With a higher population in the jail, we see higher acts of violence on inmate and inmate on deputy. Taxpayers pay for that. Inmate gets hurt during a fight, taxpayers pay for the medical treatment. So we certainly don't want anybody to get hurt. So our big goal now is just to educate people on what really happens inside the jail, what really is happening in their community jail. Big sentiment from a lot of people is they should be having bread and water and all sleeping on the floor. That doesn't work. It really doesn't. It makes it a dangerous environment for inmates and deputies. And again, pay now or you pay later. That's going to get us sued, and it's going to cost medical. It's inhumane as well. So focusing on this bond in hopes to educate everybody.
Mr. Mayor, just one more question.
Councilwoman Scher.
What is the term of the bond?
Term of the bond will be 30 years.
Wow.
But 20, sorry. For 20 years.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Pro.
thank you. Did I understand that there hasn't been a bond passed since 1995?
Mayor and council, that's correct. We haven't run for a bond in Ada County since 1995. And that bond was for the establishment of new pods in the jail and that infrastructure we're using right now.
Mr. Mayor, a follow-up.
Councilwoman Pro.
So I noticed there's obviously been significant increase in beds since then. How have the other additions or I don't know if there's actually been space or capital projects that have been done. How have those been funded without having bonds for this much time?
Those have been funded through bonds that the county commission, or not bonds, I'm sorry, funds that county commissioners have appropriated for the expansions. They're not as those small little Band-Aids didn't cost as much, frankly, as what we are asking here. But it should be noted that we're bonding for 49 million. The cost of the project is about 69, but we've already purchased the land, already have all of the architectural drawings done, and some of that cost will be offset by savings that the commissioners have instituted over the years for a jail construction fund. So they didn't just find a big load of money sitting in a closet. They have been shucking away money. So if we found that we did have to run for bond, it would be at least be less of a tax burden for you.
Mr. Mayor, one more question, if I may.
Councilman Pearl.
Thank you. So I noticed on the site plan that it looks like you will be pretty close to out of physical space to add more structures after this. So do you have any thoughts you can share on what that means for future expansion?
So future expansion could be a few different things. I think if this bond gets passed and we build that, we probably start planning for the future immediately. When I'm long gone, and probably most of the employees there, maybe not most of them, but quite a few of the employees, we need to plan for the future. Whether that means we use the existing campus for that and move all of our administrative services offsite. We always joke that, in 20 years, we may have all of our administration and executive staff in a building here in Meridian, and the jail takes over the whole campus at Barrister. That's probably what we're going to look into for the future, but we need to plan that as soon as we know. So that's a great question. I appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Hoagland.
Sheriff, thank you for that presentation. That was helpful. And I was curious, so related to the bond, is that a simple majority or is it a 2/3?
That will be a 2/3 majority. Which is why we want to educate everyone. We know a lot of people, some people don't pay attention to bonds or what they mean. So really out there and explain to them what this is and what it is.
Council, any additional questions? Thank you, Sheriff Clifford, for being here and providing this information. And I think we did a good job not asking any questions we shouldn't ask you in that regard. So,
Mayor and Council, thank you so much for giving me the time. I know you guys have a lot going in this city all the time. So just giving me a few minutes, I appreciate it greatly. Any of you have any questions, I would love it if you reached out to me, or if you, the mayor, however you'd like to do it, reach out and I'll get you the answer. Right. Thank you.
thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is item 13, which is the Meridian Intersection Pedestrian Task Force Findings Report. And we'll turn this over to Miranda.
So I get to come back before you again tonight to tell a story about community collaboration and dedication. It revolves around the safety of our streets and our intersections and our pedestrians. It's the story of how the Intersection and Pedestrian Safety Task Force came into existence and the tremendous effort that it's put forward for our community. Following tragic pedestrian versus vehicle crashes, elected officials at the city of Meridian and at ACHD recognized an urgent need to address safety concerns, and they acted to establish the MIPS task force. Our mission that we were charged with was to evaluate the experience of non-vehicle travelers in intersections and to look for intersection improvement opportunities to keep our communities safe and walkable through responsible transportation planning, design, and enforcement practices. This was an ambitious endeavor. It was a joint effort with the interagency team, the City of Meridian, the Meridian Police Department, Ada County Highway District, the West Ada School District, and the Community Planning Association of Idaho all participated and met in lengthy meetings 14 times over the last 8 months. There were also innumerable breakout meetings and discussions around this effort. No effort towards improving safety can be successful without expert guidance. The Meridian Police Department played a vital role in this effort. They performed on-site visits and provided their professional opinions at each of these sites and an unwavering presence at every task force meeting. Early on, the task force established some overarching goals. We wanted to improve the safety of mobility network users, utilize data for safety improvements, and create a centralized resource for community feedback. We didn't have to start from scratch. So I received some photos today from mid-1960s of the Meridian Police Department handing out lights to go on children's bikes. So this is an effort for safety. It goes back in our history as a community, and it will continue forward into the future. The task force looked at current ongoing efforts at the various agencies, because we wanted to ensure that our new initiatives built on those efforts and enhanced current efforts. You can see from these efforts that the various partners are all committed to the experience and safety of users of every mode of transportation in our community. One of the most critical aspects of this initiative was the safety audit. It covered over 140 sites. It was 134 intersections, and then various other corridor and areas that we looked at. It included analysis of crash data, identification of on-site hazards, a streetlight audit, a review of community feedback, and detailed, meticulous, one-by-one intersection reviews. Engaging the community was fundamental to the MIPS mission. We recognize the importance of incorporating the perspective of our residents into this transportation planning effort. To achieve this, we embarked on an outreach campaign. The Meridian and ACHD communications teams collaborated with the MIPS team to create a dedicated web page for project updates and information. It also included links for residents to report concerns that needed immediate attention through various ticket systems, and a map survey for residents to drop pins and tell us their concerns and give us information about their experience at various intersections throughout the city. This webpage and survey were shared through the city and ACHD website, city newsletter, and a social media strategy that was orchestrated by both ACHD and the city. Did this to amplify awareness of the ongoing efforts and to encourage public participation. The information that we collected through the survey was then integrated into the MIPS recommendations. We received 62 responses, and in those identified 93 comments and concerns, reflecting a diverse range of perspectives and experiences. Each comment was methodically examined to determine the appropriate agency for coordination, to ensure that the community voice was matched with actionable steps. The MIPS task force work led to recommendations that were drawn from the collective expertise of the stakeholders and the residents. Ultimately, the engineering and maintenance of our roadways lies with ACHD and ITD. The recommendations here are not intended to be prescriptive, but they are to further collaboration with these agencies as we all work towards continuous improvements. We found some recommendations for further evaluation, some study opportunities being a study into speed limit defaults and reductions, a bicycle facilities study that will look at current lane interactions or bike lane interactions with vehicular traffic and current application of ACHD's bike policies, a pedestrian study that would further look into pedestrian overpass and underpass opportunities, and also a sidewalk gap analysis throughout the city. And in a study into the feasibility and maintenance of a central repository for transportation safety information. We also identified specific improvements for intersections and areas. Those include new crosswalk paint and signalizations, improvements to existing crossings, specific area speed reductions, traffic signal changes, and improvements to pathway, sidewalk, and bike lane gaps and deficiencies. It also includes a retrofit to 184 streetlights from halogen to LED. This last recommendation is thanks to an extensive streetlight audit that was performed by the Meridian Public Works Department. And through collaboration of MIP's recommendation and that department, these streetlights will be prioritized in the Meridian Streetlight Master Plan. The MIPS task force exemplifies the power of community action. This effort is a testament to what we can achieve when we work together to address our neighborhood concerns. Pedestrians have a right to feel safe on our network of roads, sidewalks, pathways, and the agencies involved in this are leading the way toward achieving that vision. I can stand for any questions.
Thank you, Miranda. Council questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Pro.
thank you very much. This information was really fantastic. I appreciated reading through the report. I have noticed that in the construction zones in our area, there's oftentimes cones or signs or whatnot that obstruct a sidewalk. And there might be a pedestrian or an individual who's wheelchair bound or a bicyclist who might get injured from, or any other disability that might get injured from those, but they wouldn't necessarily call the police because it wasn't with a vehicle or it wasn't, so it's not something that's being reported per se. So is there any, likely not any way to get data on that, but does ACHD know if that is something that can be remedied? Was there any conversation about that with the task force?
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Perot, that's a great question. The task force did not discuss construction zones, but I can tell you that construction providers do have a responsibility to provide alternative pathways. So if a sidewalk is being repaired or if a sidewalk was currently existing and now it's being ripped up for any kind of construction or blocked for any kind of construction, the contractor does have a responsibility to provide an alternative pathway. That does not always happen, and it's a spot by spot basis, but typically I've found that there's phone numbers on construction signs. And if you call, you can get somebody to put out those things, but that's something that individuals have to report to each individual contractor.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Share.
Thanks, Miranda. This is fantastic. Really proud of the work that y'all have done. And I think it's gone really far since it first started. I was lucky enough to sit in on several of the meetings, and I'm really happy with the recommendations and the direction. There's a couple questions I have. How are we I mean, this is phenomenal work. I just want to make sure it's leveraged going forward. So how are we planning to use the detailed recommendations is the first question I have. And then the second question I have is, how are we going to evaluate as a city council on some of the next steps recommendations, like the database, the different studies that are recommended? That may be a question for the mayor's office as well. Thanks.
So I will, I think that the question of further studies and evaluation does fall more to the mayor. The planning department can look into those things, but we take our charge from the mayor's office and the chief of staff. And as far as the individual recommendations for specific streetlights, we've already sent them off to ACHD, and their engineering team has already begun to look at them. We did let them know that it's a draft and that we're working through the final document and wanted to bring it to council. So after tonight, that list will go to them and we'll look at what order we can get these done in. They did have some concerns with some of the paint requests because of the ongoing maintenance burden for painting new crosswalks and painting bike ladders. But we will work through these through the community programs request. We can work through these through Compass project development grants. There's several different avenues and opportunities we have to go through these individual intersection requests and really begin looking at how we can get some feet on the ground and starting to plan for these.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Schrader.
Yeah, just a couple comments. I would hope by the time we get to budget time, if I'm lucky enough to be here, but maybe, if Brad is here, whoever is here, that we at least have the opportunity for the council to evaluate some of those recommendations that are more long-term in terms of the studies. And the centralized database, to me, is a really powerful tool, because one thing that I know we ran into was each agency was kind of siloed and we're doing its own work stream. And I think the power of this project was bringing all these agencies together and really centralizing everything. So that's just a comment. And then in terms of the more detailed recommendations, I think you're spot on with clearly communicating when we go through our community projects priorities with ACHD. We'll use this as a tool, I'm sure. But I would hope that, we could look at grant funding, even, just whatever avenues we can find to try to accelerate them. Clearly from the comments, people are frustrated, and you can see in the heat map, like where there are some clear priorities. So I just hope that we kind of treat those with some urgency, just not a comment just for you, but for everybody. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor. Councilman Hoagland.
Yeah, Miranda, thanks for the work on this and the whole group. I didn't see anything in there, but I just wanted to find out if you had discussions about bollards in the downtown intersections. As you know, we want to create more pedestrian accesses, more pedestrian foot traffic, and that involves, outdoor seating areas. And of course, we've had some accidents where cars actually crash into buildings. And I know ACHD isn't a big fan of bollards, but was there any discussion about that on any of the downtown locations?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Hoagland, yes, there was some discussion on bollards and pedestrian, not fences, but railings. There's some concern that with those, you have to start looking at the shy distance. So when you're adding those things, you need to add on to the width of the pathway and the sidewalks as well. That is something that we did share our recommendations for the downtown area with the Meridian Development Corporation as well, so that they can incorporate that into their planning efforts. And I believe they might be looking at bollards, but ultimately the MIPS task force did not recommend the bollards in the downtown area because they usually give maybe a feeling of safety, but especially with pedestrian railings, it doesn't actually stop vehicles from coming up onto the sidewalk. So where it may make the user feel more safe, it's not actually promoting safety.
Mr. Mayor. Councilman Hoagland.
Yeah, they're definitely, the railing type is definitely less safe, but there is interest in the bollard still, and actually having something that would stop the vehicle from actually going into the building or the sidewalk at that location, wherever they're installed. So I know there'll be more work on that and a lot more conversation moving forward. So we'll see what happens.
Just to add my 2 cents to how much I appreciate and value the team that did all this work. I know it was a lot of work, and I know even on occasion, maybe I was asking for a little too much, more than they were hoping to do, but I appreciate everyone going out and taking the time. From the practical standpoint, I think it's safe to say, irregardless of who's up here, could be a different mayor, that the group will bring forward these recommendations appropriately, as they should be warranted through either our budget or other people's budgets, to make improvements that we think are important for the community. So I think that will be something we'll do. I got my first look at this last week briefly, just to give some feedback for you all, to hopefully give some additional information that hopefully you found valuable that was in here. But there's a lot of good information in here, not just the stuff, but I just want to quote one thing that I read. We spend half of our time on traffic accidents on state highways where the speed limit is over 45 miles per hour. There's little nuggets in this document that were, whether it's intersection improvements or otherwise, that have real value and benefit kind of moving forward. And I do plan on sitting down with a team and kind of going through this as they wrap it up and talk about where are those priorities that we can move forward immediately. We've already talked about some of those. The Public Works has been waiting to prioritize these intersection LED improvements in this. That's already moving forward, but where else in here makes sense? So we will definitely be doing that. And if it needs to wait for a budget amendment, we will. If we put it in next year's budget or do it before, that will be the plan. So
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Rochambeau, Schrader.
Sure. I just wanted to thank you for putting the resources into this that you did from your office. And I wanted to thank the team for all of the hard work on it, because I know it was excruciatingly difficult and very detailed work. But I think it speaks a lot to the importance of public safety in our community and how we treat all different users of our roadway network. But I just wanted to personally thank all of you, and you, Mr. Mayor, as well, for prioritizing it. Thanks.
Councilwoman Pro.
Thank you. I'm curious to hear how this might help us inform us on our streetlight prioritization. We've talked a lot about streetlights and funding and locations over the past couple of years, and I think some of this data could really be used to help that with Public Works Department as well. So hopefully this will cross over multi-departmental conversations about how we can use the information in a variety of ways.
Do you want to answer that one or?
Yeah, I can. Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Pro. So yes, this did cross over between the Planning Department and the Public Works Department. As I said, they did an extensive streetlight audit. They went and looked at every streetlight on every intersection of every arterial or signalized or pedestrian intersection in the city, and evaluated those to see if they were up to the City of Meridian new standards. So for new streetlights, we put in LED bulbs because they have longer life, which means less outages. They also burn brighter. They also have a fiscal impact with savings. So that's why these specific intersections were identified to be at the beginning of the priority list with the master streetlight update, because they are at intersections.
And maybe 10, and we do have Lorelei on the line, but the way I'm understanding their plans for FY24 was to use the funds allocated in FY24 to immediately go work on these projects. That was already in their path forward. They were just waiting for the report to a certain extent to be completed to go do that and get into the new budget year. And Lorelei, if I was incorrect, feel free to unmute and correct me.
Nope, you're spot on. We've just so you guys know, those the projects are being put together and should be put out to bid if they're not already out to bid. So we are already working on it.
Thank you. Councilwoman Schrader.
Well, just one more question. I was curious, are we planning a similar presentation at ACHD or the other agencies, or how will that work in terms of the communication?
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Strader. So currently our plan is to send our recommendations. So ACHD did have a representative on the task force, and currently our plan is to send the recommendations and report to ACHD Commission and have them address it with their team as they see fit.
Okay. And lastly, if I just want to say also thank you to Councilman Overton, who's not with us today. Yeah, you got a new job. Part of me wanted to wait till he was back, but at the same time, we want to get this in front of everybody and keep it moving forward and not delay on that stuff. So I'm sure he can appreciate that as well. So.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, he was an active member of the task force.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So council, with that, we are at the end of our agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Hoagland,
I move that we adjourn our work session.
motion to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. We're adjourned. Council will call the meeting to order. For the record, it's October 3rd, 2023 at 6 PM. We'll begin this evening's regular city council meeting with roll call attendance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilwoman Strader, Councilwoman Perot,
Here.
Councilman Cavanagh,
Here.
Horton,
Here.
Councilman Hoagland.
Here.
Mayor Simmons.
Next up is Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd all please rise and join us in the pledge. We had no one sign up for the community invocation, so we will move right on to adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, no changes on this evening's agenda, so I move approval of the agenda as published.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as published. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the agenda is agreed to. Clerk, anyone sign up under public forum?
Mr. Mayor, there is none.
Okay, then we will move right on to item 1, which is proclamation for Fire Prevention Month. Herb, if you'd like to join me at the podium or thank you. We want the public to see your good side in that regard. So as mentioned, we are here for Fire Prevention Month. And Herb, thank you for being here to accept this proclamation on behalf of myself and City Council. We will go with that and say a few words and let you say a few words as well. Whereas the City of Meridian is committed to ensuring safety and security of all those living in and visiting our city. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both nationally and locally, and homes are the locations where people are at the greatest risk from fire. And whereas Meridian's first responders are dedicated to reduce the occurrence of home fires and related injuries through prevention education. And whereas Meridian residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire. And whereas this year's theme, Cooking Safety Starts With You, Pay Attention to Fire Prevention, effectively reminds us that cooking is still the leading cause of residential fires in the United States. The Meridian Fire Department asks everyone to stay in the kitchen whenever you are cooking and not to leave your cooking unattended. Therefore, I, Mayor Robert E. Simpson, proclaim the month of October 23rd, October 2023 as Fire Prevention Month. The City of Meridian call upon the community to heed the important safety message of Fire Prevention Month and stay in the kitchen and avoiding distractions that remove your focus from what is on the stove to keep our community safe. Dated this 3rd day of October, 2023. So on behalf of myself and council, please accept this proclamation and thank you for being here to help support Fire Prevention Month.
Thank you very much. Thank you, council. We want to thank the public also for coming out on Saturday. We had a wonderful turnout despite the weather at our Public Safety Day. And we're just real happy to be able to get the safety message out to the public and keep everybody as safe as possible. Thank you.
With that, council, we'll move on to tonight's action items. First item up is a public hearing of fiscal year 2024 Public Works fee updates. We'll open this public hearing with staff comments from Director McVeigh.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We don't have any additional presentation, but we did not receive any public feedback on this one. Again, this is just our pass-through costs for fees when damage occurs like or fire hydrants. So they're just direct pass-through costs.
Thank you, council. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. This is a public hearing. Mr. Clerk, we have anyone sign up?
Mr. Mayor, we did not.
Okay, is there anybody present or online who would like to provide testimony on this item? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Schrader.
I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion, a second to close the public hearing. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the public hearing is closed.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Schrader.
if we're okay moving to the next item, I move that we approve resolution 23-2417, a resolution adopting new fees of the Meridian Public Works Department, authorizing city staff to collect such fees and providing an effective date. I would just note that, these fees are a pure pass-through cost, and I think we've had a couple of different discussions on it already.
I have a motion. I have a second.
Mr. Mayor, did you get a second? I second that motion.
I have a motion, a second. Do I have discussion? If not, clerk call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Strader,
Aye.
Perot,
Aye.
Cavanagh.
Aye. Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye. All ayes, motion carries, and the item is agreed to. Thank you. Next item up is item 4, a public hearing for Boise Regional Realtors, H 2023-0046. We will open this public hearing with staff comments.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Pro.
While the staff is preparing, I'd just like to make it known that I am a member of the Boise Regional Realtors, and I discussed that membership with our legal team, who cleared me to be involved in the voting this evening. I have no decision-making capacity on behalf of the realtors in any way, so I just wanted to put that out there for the public.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Linda Ritter, Associate Planner for the City of Meridian. So tonight we are talking about the Boise Regional Realtors Vacation Requests, item number H 2023-0046. This site consists of 1.236 acres of land, Zone CZ, located at 1911 South Wells Avenue. Again, this request is to vacate a 20 by 20 foot City of Meridian water easement located along the northeast corner of Lot 5, Block 3 of Gramercy Subdivision Number 1. A certificate of zoning certification and design review application A-2022-0030 has been approved for construction of the one-story 8,470 square foot office building at this location. It has been constructed. So the 8-inch water stub that was located within this easement has been abandoned and or removed. The property is instead served by a water stub at the southeast corner of the site. A relinquished letter was received from the City of Meridian for the easement proposed to be vacated. Since this is only a city water easement, no other relinquished letters from the various other utilities providers are required. So staff is recommending approval of this. We had no public written testimony. And at this time, I will stand for any questions that the council has.
Thank you, Linda. Council, any questions for staff? Okay. Were we expecting the applicant to be here this evening?
Thought he was sitting at the back of the room there. I'm not having much luck with these, am I?
Okay.
But we do have someone from Public Works who can verify that the easement is not in use.
Okay, Mr. Dolsby, would you like to say those words officially?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, yes, that easement is not in use and we do not need the easement. We're in favor of the application.
Thank you. Seeing no applicant, is there anybody else present that would like to provide testimony, even though there's nobody else in the room or online that's not a city staff, just so council who's not here is aware? How would you like to proceed?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
I'll provide some perspective, at least from where I'm coming from. This is a pretty cut and dry application. However, a number of weeks ago, I think we had another very cut and dry application where the applicant wasn't there. During that meeting, I said I wouldn't feel comfortable voting on any type of application without at least hearing from the applicant. Certainly, when we don't have anybody from the public that's here, should there have been somebody here, I think the applicant has an obligation to be here as well. So I will either be abstaining tonight or voting no on this application, or be supportive of a continuance to allow the applicant to be here. I just think it's an important precedent that we set.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Schrader.
Yeah, I have a similar thought. I think I've expressed this in the past before. It's important for people to show up. I just am concerned that it sort of promotes bad behavior if we continue to let people come forward and they don't show up. And it is important because if there was a member of the public and they're not here, I would also be in support of a continuance or may vote no on it tonight, or at least abstain from it as well. I think maybe it would be good for the community development department to just communicate to all applicants on these matters going forward. And I'm sure we do, but just to let them know that it's important that they show up to their public hearing.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Hoagland.
Yeah, just regarding this, the last situation that happened, it was a deal where they apologized profusely, and one of those things where they thought someone within their organization was covering, the other folks in their organization thought the other one was covering, and they weren't able to make it. It was pretty straightforward. Have no idea what this is about. We certainly do prefer that they show up, but being that it's a city only type of easement, we know that it's not there. There's no situation to that. Maybe if a letter is sent to them expressing their displeasure that they didn't show, but we took action just to move forward with this, get it done. I don't know if there's major repercussions if we don't do it now, if we delay it, but I think just letting them know that what the expectation is, and have Linda pass on to the superiors at her department that they can pass that along as well, that we expect to hear from them. And we have an online system now. It's a lot easier. You don't have to actually physically show up, but we do have that expectation. So if we want to just move this forward, I'm fine with doing that. So,
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Pro.
I agree with Council President Hoagland because the city of Meridian is a party to this. It is a water easement that belongs to the city. I don't have any hesitation in moving forward. If that wasn't the case, I would be inclined to agree with my other council members, but I myself don't have an issue with proceeding. With that said, did we close the public hearing?
We've not yet.
Are we ready? We're ready. We feel like we've asked appropriately for any testimony that might be taken.
Yes, there's nobody online that's not a city staff member. And no one in the room who's here. If you want to take a 5-minute recess, I bet you we could get a representative from BRR to zoom in. We could try to do that if you would prefer.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman.
yeah, let's take a 5-minute recess. Try to get someone on and at least be here and have everyone on the same page with this. So that'll be good.
Okay. We'll recess for 5 minutes. So we will go ahead and come back from recess. I understand the applicant is, or a representative of the applicant is with us this evening. Cameron, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Do you have any comments regarding the application on behalf of the applicant?
I do not. I reviewed the documents and I think everything was in order. So I don't have any comments to add on behalf of BRR.
We'll take that as in agreement with the staff report and conditions.
Correct.
Name? Yeah. Oh, and Cameron, can you state your name and address for the record?
Yeah, this is Cameron Kinzer. I live at 4344 North Vera Street in Boise, Idaho, 83704.
Thank you. Council, any questions for the applicant? Okay. Would the applicant like to make any final comments?
No, thank you.
Okay. Then do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we close the public hearing for H 2023-0046.
Second the motion.
I have a motion second to close the public hearing. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. You guys have it, and the public hearing is closed.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Pro.
considering all staff applicant and public testimony, I move to approve file number H 2023-0046 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of October 3rd, 2023.
Second the motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve item H 2023-0046. Is there discussion? If not, clerk call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Strater,
Aye.
Burrow,
Aye.
Cavanagh,
Aye.
Wharton,
Aye.
Hoagland.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carries. The item is agreed to. With that, we'll move on to item 5, which is ordinance number 23-2037. That's the clerk to read this ordinance by title.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's an ordinance amending Unified Development Code, Section 11-2A2, Table 11-2A2, concerning allowed uses in residential districts. Amending Unified Development Code, Section 11-3A3A, concerning access to streets. Amending Unified Development Code, Section 11-3C6, Table 11-3C6, concerning required parking spaces for residential use. Amending UDC Code, Section 11-432, concerning arts, entertainment, or recreation facility specific use standards. Amending UDC Section 11-4.310 concerning drinking establishment specific use standards. Amending UDC Section 11-4.327B concerning site design requirements for multifamily developments. Amending UDC Section 11-4.327C concerning alternative compliance to open space standards for multifamily developments. Amending UDC Section 11-4.341 concerning vertically integrated residential project specific use standards. Amending UDC Section 11-5A3F concerning requests for city council review. Amending UDC Section 11-5A4 concerning administrative process. Amending UDC Section 11-5A6 concerning public hearing process. Amending UDC Section 11-5A7 concerning city council review process. Amending UDC Section 11-5B5, Table 11-5B5 concerning alternative compliance. Amending UDC Section 11-5B5E concerning alternative compliance required findings. Amending UDC Section 11-5B6E concerning conditional use findings. Amending UDC Section 11-6C3D concerning common driveway standards and providing an effective date.
Thank you, council. You've heard this ordinance read by title. Is there anybody that would like it read in its entirety? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Pro.
that was just the title. I move, I move that we approve ordinance number 23-2037.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 23-2037. Is there discussion? If not, clerk call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Strater,
Aye.
Burrow,
Aye.
Cavanagh,
Aye.
Wharton,
Aye.
Hoagland.
Aye. All ayes, motion carries. The item is agreed to. Council, anything under future meeting topics?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Pro.
in light of this ordinance, one of the items that planning has presented to us a couple of times is conversation regarding adding additional locations in the city where buildings up to 100 feet can be built. And I'd like to request that we have the fire department bring some more information to us to how those buildings would be responded to. And so I know we had talked about possibly putting that on a work session agenda sometime in October, but I don't know what the plan is. So,
It's on for October 17th.
oh, wonderful. Okay, thank you very much.
Yep. Okay. Anything else on our future meeting topics? And if not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Mayor, I move we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.